Hello there everyone, I'm Gage LaPierre, and today I'm over here at Longleaf Flatwoods Reserve, which is an awesome place. It's about a 20-minute drive southeast of Gainesville, Florida, and I am almost standing in the middle of what we call a Flatwoods community. And so what is a Flatwoods community? How do I know that I'm in this Flatwoods community right now? Well, for starters, let's just think about what's below our feet. And by that, I guess I mean what's below my feet right now. And I don't mean all of this saw palmetto and gallberry that's out here. I mean the soil. So Flatwoods communities, the soil is defined or classified as a spodosol. And so a spodosol, if you remember from some of our earlier lectures, is basically consists of this subsurface layer, which is called a spodic horizon. And that spodic horizon does a lot for determining what's the composition and what species we see above ground. And why is that? Well, for starters, that spodic horizon, that subsurface layer, I should say, it slows down water, and it also slows down nutrients leaching through the soil profile. And so it basically makes it, this area less drained than an upland pine community or a sandhill community, you would say. And it's actually quite amazing how much that can affect just the the abundance of certain species in areas. So one general example of this is, and that we're seeing right now, is this high abundance of gallberry and saw palmetto. And so gallberry is this one, which is Ilex glabra, and saw palmetto, which is this one, and that one's called Serena repens. Something else to point out while we're out here, and I haven't mentioned it yet in any of the lecture series, is saw palmetto. Just something that's really fascinating about it. Not a lot of people know, but studies have shown that the age of individual saw palmettos, and this is a pretty good example, range up to thousands of years old. So, some of these that we're standing on right now, I mean, who knows? They could be potentially more than just 100 years old. They could be potentially thousands of years old, which is, well, that's pretty crazy if you ask me. Something else to take a general note on, and what we're passing through right now, is we're passing through a lot of different blueberries, and one of them is shiny blueberry. And so this shiny blueberry, which unfortunately has just got done fruiting for the year, is super abundant in some of these flatwood communities, as well as a couple other blueberry species, some of which I'm not seeing right now. Also, another indicator species of flatwood communities is usually Lionia lucida, which is featherbush. So that's this one right here. Of course, there's a lot of different grasses and forbs in these flatwoods communities, and some of these can occur on just different patches of soil that can be within a flatwoods community. Sometimes they can just occur in superabundance based on different types of fire regimes, and there's still a lot of information that we don't really know about some of these shrubs and some of these grasses and forbs in terms of their abundances and things like that in some of these different flatwood areas. So some of the things that we're seeing right now, we have some Indian lopsided grass, we have some dropseed, we have some andropogon, Broom's Edge. So let's just make some other general observations about how we know that we're in a Flatwoods community right now. And one big one is the overstory. So similar to Sandhill and Upland Pine, the overstory here, I wouldn't say it's sparse, but it's not dense. And if you look up, you can see that it's made up of primarily longleaf pine. But, and maybe you all can see this in the camera as well, but we're actually sitting on a slope right now. So if we look to our west, we can see the bottom of that slope where it ends into a cypress dome, and we can see when we turn to the east, we can see it sloping uphill. And if I walked several thousand feet that way, we'd be right back in an upland pine or sandhill community. Go take a look at another Flatwoods site. Let's keep talking about Flatwoods. So today we're over here at Cary Memorial Forest. It's a property that's owned by the University of Florida, and it's a wonderfully well managed property, if I do say so myself. This area that we're standing in right now is known as a Flatwoods community. Something else that we have a lot of, and it depends a lot on how often Flatwood communities are burned, and it depends a lot on the land use history, what things that happened prior to now, is the abundance of forbs and grasses. So here are some of the things that we're seeing right now in bloom. This is August, so a lot of things in Flatwood communities bloom in the fall. So some of the things that we're seeing right now in bloom is some hypericums. We're also seeing Polygola, which is a very interesting plant that's very small, as you can see, but it smells quite good. The roots, they smell like licorice. Some other things that we have out here, again, is the hypericum, which is these yellow flowers. We also have some solidagos, and we also have, as you can see in this roadway, we have a lot of different grasses that have taken over this roadway. And yeah, so let's go look at some more examples of Flatwoods communities. And before I forget, this area was actually burned last year. So last year in May or June, if I recall. And I have some pictures of that I can show you, just the flowering abundance that was here. Hey there, everyone. So we're still at Cary Forest. We're at a different Flatwoods site, and as you can see, this Flatwoods site looks a lot different than the Flatwoods site we were just in. The mid-story here, that's composed of gallberry and saw palmetto, is much taller. Why does this site look so much different than the one we were just in? Well, the main reason is because of fire. So this site hasn't had fire in it for several decades, although it did receive fire a few the previous year, but because of it going without fire for several decades, these sites will take a very long time to recover to that structure that we were seeing in the earlier site. Something else to kind of take note of here is the overstory here is very mature. So when you're thinking as a land manager, or if you're coming out to these areas and you're kind of wondering why, how can we progress these sites quicker? There's a lot of different techniques that are out there, that tools that are available to make the site look like the previous site quicker. But there are consequences to using all those different methods, and there's pros and cons.
And one of the biggest things about some of these sites, and you may hear about it in the news every once in a while, is when sites look like this, and when they can get really overgrown like this becomes a big fire hazard in the state of Florida, and something that is very difficult to actually even put prescribed fire in, because it can be pretty intense. And the overstory, which is composed of slash pine here, may be at a significant risk if you were to burn this at the wrong time under the wrong conditions. So let's go take a look at another Flatwoods site, and let's keep talking about Flatwoods. Hey there everyone, so we're at another Flatwoods site here at Austin Cary Forest, and as you can see, this site looks quite different than the one we were just in. This site was burned nearly a month ago, and as you can see, there's just a spectacular regrowth that's occurring here. Really cool to note out here, and how I know that this is a Flatwoods community is, again, this wide diversity of shrubs. Some of the things that we're seeing out here is just a number of different blueberry species. We're also seeing fetterbush, we're seeing runner oak, we're seeing a few splashes of wiregrass and andropogon, and depending on how sites are managed, that composition of shrubs versus grasses and what you're exactly seeing and when things flower can change depending on how often sites are burned, and also the timing of when sites are burned. So that's just another cool thing to note about flatwood communities. And as you can already see, flatwood communities can look very different just based on when you're out and about.